I know you're not really gone. You cheated on me a long time ago. You even put on this whole act just to run away with Jai Bodit and leave me to pay your debts. But I don't hate you. I've decided to respect your wish. Since you want people to think you're gone, I'll send you off as soon as I can. My wife lay in the hospital bed, pretending to be gone. I rushed over and gave her 2 hard smacks. I even called the organ donation department, planning one last loving donation. Last time, I was too busy grieving. After drinking the water her best friend gave me, I slept for 3 days and 2 nights. When I woke up again, my wife had already been cremated. Before I could even mourn, debt collectors came knocking. Only then did I learn that before she passed, my wife had over 10 million in debt. They not only took both of my kidneys, they also forced me to work around the clock to repay it. In just 10 years, I had aged like an 80-year-old man. And right then, my wife, who had been gone for 10 years, appeared with her lover, driving past me in a luxury car. She smiled and tossed me 100 yuan, saying it was thanks for my hard work. I couldn't catch my breath, and everything went dark on the spot. I returned to the day my wife had a heart attack. Looking at my wife covered by a white sheet, I sneered in my heart, "Since you want this, I'll help you finish it." My wife's best friend, Wang Manian, kept urging me to drink water. I came back to my senses and looked at her. In my last life, I fainted after drinking that exact glass of water. I was almost 100% sure that something had been added to it. The goal was to make me miss Liu Ruyan's cremation. I put down the glass and ignored Wang Manian's attempts to stop me. I walked to Liu Ruyan's bedside and lifted the sheet. Liu Ruyan's face was rosy. Her breathing looked steady. In my last life, I had been too heartbroken, too foolish, to notice this. I raised my hand and smacked Liu Ruyan across the face. Liu Ruyan did not move at all. It seemed she was afraid I would notice, so she had used a heavy anesthetic. Wang Manian screamed, thinking I had discovered Liu Ruyan was faking it. "Brother-in-law, are you out of your mind? You can't hit her that hard." I turned toward Liu Ruyan and kept making a show of grief. Seeing Wang Manian almost expose herself, I cried out like I hated that my wife had failed herself. "I told you not to stay up so late. I told you to get checkups. Why didn't you listen to me? What am I supposed to do now that you've left me alone?" Wang Manian swallowed hard. She froze on the spot, and I had no interest in arguing. I took out my phone and made a call. "Hello. I want to arrange an organ donation here. She passed not long ago. Please come quickly." Wang Manian wanted to stop me, but her position made it awkward, so she quickly sent a message on her phone. The organ donation staff arrived within minutes. I put on a heartbroken expression. My wife was always a kind person. This accident took her life, and I want her life to continue in another way. I hope she can help more people. "Sir, that is very generous of you. On behalf of those families, thank you. May I ask which organs you want to donate?" I sighed and said, "My wife passed from a sudden heart attack. I don't know which organs are still usable. Just open her up and take whatever can be used. If there are no usable organs, then donate her body to a medical school." "No, you can't, brother-in-law. Ruyan never wanted to be an organ donor. She told me before. We have to respect Sister Ruyan's last wishes. Manian, I am Ruyan's husband. I can make this decision. You and Ruyan are only close friends with no blood relation. Between us, who has the right to decide? I think you know that without me saying it. Besides, every minute you delay makes the organs less viable. You're a doctor yourself. Don't doctors want to save people?" The organ donation staff also spoke up. "That's right, Doctor. Wang, please step aside. How could Wang Manian possibly move? She was so anxious she nearly jumped in place. I already contacted Auntie. At least let Auntie see Sister Ruyan one last time. Lizu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaoman, rushed over in a panic. She hadn't even taken the curlers out of her hair. It looked like she had been at a salon. When she saw Liu Ruyan still intact on the bed, she breathed a sigh of relief. Then she immediately slapped me. What is wrong with you? What bad luck did Ruyan have to marry you? My daughter was brought down by you, and now you want to cut her open? Today, if anyone touches even one hair on her, I will make them pay. No donation, absolutely not. Go bother someone else. The donation staff felt regretful, but they had no choice but to leave. Only then did Wang Manian sigh in relief. She picked up the white sheet and covered Liu Ruyan again. Du Xiaoman sat on the sofa nearby and pointed at me, cursing loudly. You sanctimonious jerk. Your own wife is gone, and you're not sad. Instead of arranging her burial peacefully, you want to make her a medical body donor? Are you trying to make my daughter suffer even after leaving? If you want to be a good person, donate yourself. You can do it right now. I'll decide to donate all of you. I covered my face and sighed heavily. Mum, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I only wanted you to. Don't even think about it. Go back right now. I'll send my daughter to the crematorium later. I immediately looked wounded, timidly handing her the water Wang Manian had brought me. Du Xiaoman suspected nothing. With all her shouting and anxiety, her mouth had long gone dry. She drank the water in one breath. Wang Manian tried to stop her, but it was too late. Less than 2 minutes after drinking it, Du Xiaoman fell asleep. Cold sweat instantly broke out on Wang Manian's face again. She stammered, Brother-in-law, you're not thinking of organ donation again, are you? I shook my head and laid Du Xiaoman flat on the sofa. How could I? Mom already said no. Of course I won't continue. Wang Manian breathed a sigh of relief. Auntie suddenly fainted. That could be serious. You should hurry and take her to the ER. I'll personally arrange Sister Ruyan's cremation. Hearing that, I looked at her with a faint smile and said, Isn't that backward? You're the doctor. You should take care of the patient. And I am Ruyan's husband. It's only right that I arrange the cremation. Wouldn't you agree? After saying that, I contacted the crematorium directly and asked them to come right away. Wang Manian was anxious like a cat on a hot stove, constantly trying to wake Du Xiaoman. But no matter how she shook her, Du Xiaoman lay there like a log. When the crematorium staff pushed Liu Ruyan away, Wang Manian finally couldn't hold back and grabbed my sleeve. Her voice was hoarse. Brother-in-law, I think I just saw Sister Ruyan move. Maybe she can still be saved. Hearing that, I shoved the death certificate in front of her. Manian, think carefully before you speak. If Sister Ruyan is really alive right now, what responsibility will your hospital bear? And what responsibility will you bear? That would be a serious crime. It would be a wrongful loss of life. I don't know if the hospital could keep operating, but you would definitely be going inside. So think again carefully. Did you really see Ruyan move? Wang Manian was completely flustered and had no idea how to respond. I sneered, shook off Wang Manian's hand, and followed the crematorium vehicle. Wang Manian cried out in panic and quickly picked up her phone to make a call. I looked at Liu Ruyan lying on the stretcher and couldn't help laughing. Then I noticed her finger seemed to twitch. Looks like she knew she was going to be cremated. With the anesthetic wearing off, she was starting to wake up. Sir, please drive faster. My mother-in-law wants to take my wife's remains. She keeps insisting on some organ donation, but I just want my wife to arrive whole and leave whole. The driver froze for a second, then stomped hard on the gas. In my last life, when I met Liu Ruyan on the street, 10 years had passed. Yet her face looked almost the same as now. There was barely a trace of time on it. I stumbled in front of the car, wanting to recognize her, wanting to see clearly whether it was really Liu Ruyan, wanting to tell her how much I had missed her. Liu Ruyan narrowed her eyes, and took a long time to barely recognize me. She smiled and said, "Oh, it's you. It's only been 10 years. How do you look older than my grandfather?" At the time, my voice was hoarse and my back was bent. I truly did not look like a 50-year-old man. I stammered and asked, "Weren't you gone?" "To get rid of you. I faked my death on purpose." Ha ha ha. Liu Ruyan didn't finish her sentence. But what else did I need to understand? If she had asked for a divorce directly, I never would have refused. But with a divorce, I would have taken half her property, and she would have been labeled a cheating woman. But faking her death was different. Not only could she leave all the debt to me, she could transfer all the assets away, change identities without fear, and openly be with Jai Boda. I was so furious I couldn't speak, but Liu Ruyan seemed in the mood to keep talking. She smiled and said to me, "Actually, back at the hospital, I could hear you talking. I still remember how you cried." I was really curious. How can a grown man cry like a goose? Ha ha ha, it was honestly hilarious. Amid that mocking laughter, I clutched my chest and fell down. Jai Boda said with disgust, "Honey, is he trying to scam us? Let's hurry and go." Liu Ruyan also complained that it was bad luck, then drove away directly, not caring whether I lived or not. My final memory was watching the car leave before everything went dark. Now, looking at Liu Ruyan's young and beautiful face, I lowered my head to her chest and listened to her steady heartbeat. Then I said everything I never got the chance to say in my last life. "I know you're not really gone. You cheated on me a long time ago. You even put on this act on purpose, just to run away with Jai Boda, leaving me to pay your debts. But I don't hate you. I've decided to respect your wish. Since you want people to think you're gone, I'll send you off as quickly as possible. I know you can hear me right now, but I'm not sure whether you can feel anything. I hope you can. That way, you can personally experience the cremation. After all, you may be the first person sent off while still breathing." Liu Ruyan's fingers trembled slightly. She couldn't move, but tears flowed from her eyes. I reached out and wiped them away. "Don't worry. Once you enter the cremation chamber, you'll really understand." My phone kept ringing non-stop. The calls were from Wang Manian and Du Xiamen, but right now, I was just a poor man who had lost his wife. It was normal that I had no heart to answer calls, right? With the driver racing the whole way, a trip that should have taken half an hour took only 20 minutes. But there were many people at the crematorium today. It would take at least another hour before Liu Ruyan's turn. I frowned and found the person in charge. Then my expression changed, and I burst into tears on command. My wife passed from a sudden heart attack. After my mother-in-law heard the news, she fainted too. She's being treated at the hospital right now. I must hurry back as soon as possible. Please let my wife go first. For the cremation. I don't want anything to happen to my mother-in-law too. It was the first time the person in charge had met someone trying to cut in line for cremation. I know you're anxious, but everyone else has been waiting too. It's hard for me to let you skip the line. Although he said that, he stretched out his hand meaningfully. I understood he wanted money, I immediately took out my phone and transferred him 2,000 yuan. Please help me, sir. I'm an orphan. My wife and mother-in-law treated me very well. I really can't lose my mother-in-law too. The man in charge was moved by my sincerity, so Liu Ruyan successfully cut the line. In less than 10 minutes, she was pushed into the cremation furnace. Just as the worker was about to press the button, I stopped him. I couldn't let him become the one responsible. Besides, I wanted to take revenge myself. At my strong request, the worker agreed to let me press the button, but at that exact moment, voices rang out at the door. They were Du Xiaoman and Wang Menian, frantic and panicked. Xiaming, stop. Give my daughter back. Stop right now. Bring my daughter out. Brother-in-law, wait. Andy still has something to say to Sister Ruyan. Get away from me. I won't allow you to cremate my daughter. I'll do it myself. Even at this point, the two of them still wanted to continue the fake death plan. I knelt on the floor and said sorrowfully, Mom, Ruyan is already gone. Let's let her rest in peace. I am Ruyan's husband. I will not leave. Our argument attracted many onlookers. The workers exchanged awkward glances. What kind of tragic drama is this? The crematorium isn't a place for you to make a scene. As he spoke, he reached to press the button. Wang Menian and Du Xiaoman rushed forward desperately to stop him. Their expressions were wild, like tigers pouncing on prey. The worker was startled and dodged to the side. Wang Menian and Du Xiaoman missed him, but slammed directly onto the button with a roar. Rolling flames instantly swallowed Liu Ruyan. Two screams rang out. Everyone looked at Wang Menian and Du Xiaoman. I, however, kept my eyes fixed on Liu Ruyan inside the furnace. Liu Ruyan's anesthetic must have fully worn off. I vaguely saw her open her mouth and reach out. Unfortunately, the commotion outside was too loud. No one noticed what was happening inside. More than a minute later, everyone finally turned back toward the furnace. The flames made the crematorium workers whisper in surprise. This is the first time I've seen a body sit up that high. It looked almost like a living person. Good thing it's daytime. If this happened at midnight, I'd think something strange was going on. I wiped away tears that did not exist and pressed down the corners of my mouth that wanted to rise. Then I pretended to be pitiful and said, My wife loved my mother-in-law the most. She must have heard Mom's voice and wanted to sit up to see her one last time. Then I wiped my eyes toward the furnace and said, Honey, go in peace. Don't worry. I will take good care of our mom. I'll work hard so you two can reunite soon. Wang Menian ignored Du Xiaoman, who had collapsed on the floor and stumbled forward. When she saw the scene inside the furnace, she was scared out of her mind. She desperately pressed the furnace controls. Turn it off. Turn off the flames. The staff had never seen a family member this emotional. They quickly pulled Wang Menian away. Miss, we know you're grieving, but the dead cannot come back. If you do this, she won't be at peace either. Wang Menian's face turned frighteningly pale. She dropped to the ground. It's over. It's over. Ruyan is really gone. Du Xiaoman crawled to my feet on all fours and grabbed my pant leg while cursing, You jerk. You caused my daughter to be gone. Give my daughter back. I sighed, then took out the death certificate and said, Mom, I know you're heartbroken, but Ruyan's passing has nothing to do with me. She passed from a sudden heart attack. If you don't believe me, ask Menian. She was the one who tried to save Ruyan. She was also the one who personally issued this death certificate to me. After saying that, I turned to look at Wang Manian. I almost couldn't hold back the smile at the corner of my mouth. Right? Manian? Wang Manian had no idea what to say. If she said Ruyan wasn't dead, then where did the death certificate come from? If she said Ruyan was dead, Du Xiaoman would never believe it. But after I said that, Du Xiaoman also realized something. It was you. You caused this. You caused my daughter to be gone. What death certificate are you talking about? Now my daughter was cremated while still breathing. This is all your responsibility. Those words were far too harsh. Everyone present was stunned. The workers' faces also turned pale. Oh my goodness. This is a serious crime. When Du Xiaoman heard that, her eyes rolled back and she fainted on the spot. I reacted quickly and slapped Wang Manian across the face. Manian, are you out of your mind? How can you make this kind of joke? My wife is gone. Gone means gone. Why are you talking nonsense? Wang Manian was stunned by my slap. The surrounding staff heard this and also thought Wang Manian was joking. They all went back to their own work. After Liu Ruyan's cremation was completely finished, I put on an extremely angry expression and left the crematorium with Liu Ruyan's ashes. Before leaving, I did not forget to leave Wang Manian one sentence. You scared Mom until she fainted for no reason. You were responsible for taking her to the hospital. It wasn't that I didn't want to stay and watch the show. It was just that I had something more important to do. After returning home, I casually placed Liu Ruyan's ashes in the corner of the living room. Then I immediately contacted a lawyer and began handling the inheritance of Liu Ruyan's company and assets. In my last life, I had been too grief-stricken. By the time I reacted, the company was already gone. If I didn't act quickly in this life, once Du Xiaoman woke up, she would definitely make the first move. Lawyer Chen Ruyan passed suddenly. Before she was gone, she mentioned some family trusts and overseas accounts to me. I want you to use every connection you have. And within 48 hours, help me find out her real cash flow. Chen Jianzhang hesitated on the other end of the line. Mr. Lin, based on public records, Ms. Liu only has a few properties and a consulting company that is almost insolvent. There are also debts in the tens of millions. Right, Lawyer Chen. Liu Ruyan was clever to the bone. She would rather fake her death than divorce me. That means the assets she wanted to protect are worth far more than those debts. Help me investigate and I'll triple your fee. With enough reward, people always find a way. By the next afternoon, I received Lawyer Chen's encrypted email. Just as I expected, Liu Ruyan had used her so-called medical consulting company for long-term money laundering and asset transfers. Using Wang Manian's background as a doctor, she bought large amounts of restricted prescription formulas and placed them under several offshore companies. Even more ironic, I found a secret safe. Its address was in that old, rundown garage. When I pushed open the rusty rolling door, a musty smell rushed at me. In this corner I had never visited in my last life. I pried open a hidden compartment. There were no jewels inside, only neatly arranged cash and several cryptocurrency storage devices, 10 million in debt. Ruyan, you plan to leave me struggling in debt while you took tens of millions in Bitcoin and ran abroad with Jai Boda. I counted it. The cash alone here was over 2 million. I did not rush to deposit it in the bank. Instead, I contacted several lending companies to whom Liu Ruyan owed the most money. When dealing with those ruthless lenders, the best method is not to hide. It is to buy them off. I invited the heads of those companies to a high-end private club. Everyone, Liu Ruyan has been cremated. Here is the death certificate. I'm sure you've all heard. Mr. Lin, a person's debt doesn't disappear when they pass. You were the first heir. You have to repay the money. I never said I wouldn't repay it. Here is 2 million. Consider it a show of sincerity. I'll pay part of the interest first. For the remaining debt, after I take over Liu Ruyan's company, I will repay you through legal equity pledges. But I have one condition. Liu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaoman, and the man named Jai Boda may still be holding some of Liu Ruyan's private money. They are spreading rumors everywhere, saying I caused her passing, trying to use that to seize the inheritance. If they succeed, then this money may never reach any of you. What do you mean, Mr. Lin? Don't let them interfere with my repayment, understood? Also, let them feel what it's like to be chased by creditors. Since they want evidence, I'll let them sink into the mud of debt first. Liu Ruyan's company was called Ruyan Trading. The name sounded elegant, but in reality, it was a dirty shell company. On the first day I took over the company, I brought 12 burly security guards. The finance manager, Wang Qin, who was Wang Manian's cousin, was holding documents. With a deathly pale face, Mr. Lin, this isn't according to procedure, is it? MS, Liu just passed, and you're already making such a scene by firing all of us old employees? Procedure? You embezzled 380,000 yuan. You also used fake invoices to help cover the accounts. Do you want to talk procedure with me, or talk life with the Financial Crime Unit? You have half an hour. Export every email and transaction record related to Liu Ruyan and Jai Boda from your computer. Do it well, and I'll treat the 380,000 as your severance pay. Do it poorly, and you can go inside to keep your cousin company. In less than 20 minutes, I got everything I wanted. That included evidence that Liu Ruyan illegally transferred assets to Jai Boda, as well as electronic contracts for properties they bought overseas. These things had originally been Liu Ruyan's bargaining chips to restart her life after faking her death. Now they all became evidence for me to accuse them of fraud and transferring property. The sky was gloomy. I watched the balance in the bank account keep changing, but my heart felt no waves. With Liu Ruyan's fixed assets, digital assets in cold wallets, and the equity after the company restructuring, the total value had already exceeded 50 million. As for the 10 million in debt, under my arrangement, it had become Liu Ruyan's personal fraud debt. Since the party involved had passed, and her assets had been liquidated to repay debts, the remaining bad debt was all pushed onto Du Xiaoman as the guarantor. This was my final gift to her. Honey. Thank you. Now I have money, a house, and a company. From now on, I'll live freely. Even more freely than you did in my last life. I drank until I was completely drunk and fell asleep on the sofa. The next day, I was woken by knocking at the door. I rubbed my aching, hungover head and opened it. Outside stood Wang Menian and Du Xiaoman, along with a man who looked a few years older than me. Judging from his appearance, he should be Jai Boda, whom I had seen in my last life. His face was full of grief and anger. He was also holding the hand of a boy around 6 or 7. The boy looked very much like Liu Ruyan. Could he be Liu Ruyan's secret child with him? No wonder Liu Ruyan refused to have children after marriage. It turned out she had already had a child with her first love. The three of them looked mournful, their dark circles were heavy, and several police officers followed behind them. Officer, it's this man. He sent my daughter off while she was still breathing. You need to arrest him immediately. Let him go through the same thing too. Let him experience what that feels like. I had already expected this scene. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. I pretended to sigh helplessly and said, "Mom, can you please stop making jokes like this?" As I spoke, I took out the death certificate. "Officer, this is my wife's death certificate. My mom can't accept my wife's passing. She may be a little unstable right now." "Yes, this document has no obvious problem." I sighed and continued, "My wife and I were married for 3 years. Our relationship was always very, very good. After I learned my wife had passed, I didn't want her remains to deteriorate, so I had her cremated immediately. Was that wrong?" Du Zilman clutched her chest. "Nonsense. My daughter was already sick of a useless man like you. If Boda hadn't been unable to divorce back then, why would Rian have married you out of anger? You did it on purpose. You deliberately cut in line for cremation to get my daughter's inheritance and company. I contacted people at the company yesterday and confirmed it. What else can you deny?" I looked completely incredulous. My eyes red as if they might bleed. "Mom, you can scold me, but my relationship with Ruyan was real. If Ruyan and I had no feelings, how could she make me the sole heir to her estate? You say Ruyan is alive. Why don't you think about it? At such a large hospital, could they really not tell whether a person was alive or not? Manian told me herself. She said Ruyan had brain death, and her heart had stopped beating too. What living person is like that?" Du Zilman looked at Wang Manian, but Wang Manian only lowered her head. That made sense. If she've admitted now that the death certificate was fake, the consequences would be huge. Better to keep going with the mistake. The scene immediately reached a stalemate. Jai Boda tugged at Du Zilman's sleeve. Du Zilman stopped speaking. He sighed. Ruyan really wasn't gone. "I am Ruyan's boyfriend. Back then Ruyan and I broke up because of a misunderstanding. She married you out of anger. This year I got divorced and brought the child to find Ruyan. Ruyan also realized she still loved me, so she wanted to fake her death and leave you, but no one expected that you would directly cremate Ruyan. But don't blame Ruyan. She only did this because she didn't want to hurt you. She was a kind person. Now that Ruyan is gone, we only hope you can accept this child and let him receive the inheritance he deserves." I took a sip of water and imitated Du Zilman's tone. "Nonsense. Mom, I know your relationship with Ruyan was not good. Ruyan didn't leave you a single cent in her will. So you brought a child from who knows where to come here and frame Ruyan, trying to split her inheritance, right?" Du Zilman was almost furious enough to collapse, but for the money she steadied herself. "Nonsense. Ruyan and I were very close. This is Ruyan's child. I know it clearly. I directly took out Liu Ruyan's will." "Mom, why are you lying? If you and Ruyan were close, why doesn't your name appear anywhere in this will? Why was every asset left to me?" Du Zilman had nothing to say. Jai Boda was still hesitating. After all, he couldn't directly say that Liu Ruyan made me her heir, only so I would take on her debts. I glanced at the child standing behind Jai Boda and sneered in my heart. So this is why she pretended to be a good wife for 3 years, then suddenly stopped pretending. Her first love and son had returned, but I wasn't sad inside. After all, I had already died once. With a calm expression, I said, "You say this child is Ruyan's. Then please show proof. For example, a legally recognized paternity test, or a birth certificate." Jai Boda and Du Zilman froze at the same time. "There is no paternity test. The child was born at home, so there is no birth certificate either. But the child is Ruyan's. Officer, do you see what's going on? They know my wife has already been cremated, so they deliberately brought a child here to demand the inheritance. They even made shocking claims, saying I cremated my wife while she was alive. But what they are saying is completely contradictory. Du Zillman anxiously said, I can do a test with the child to prove I am the child's grandmother. Wouldn't that prove he is Ruyan's child? The officer shook his head. That does not count. It can only prove you and the child are related. But your relationship with Liu Ruyan does not prove that. Even if it could prove that, it still couldn't prove that you and your husband only had Ruyan as your child. I held back a laugh. Honestly, a big reason I insisted on cremating Liu Ruyan was because I was worried about this exact issue. I didn't expect my gamble to be right. Du Zillman and Jai Boda looked at each other. Jai Boda gritted his teeth. It doesn't matter whose child he is. Ruyan really wasn't gone. He was the one who cremated Ruyan. He is responsible for her death. He cannot inherit Ruyan's estate. Jai Boda was actually right about that, but the premise was that he had to prove I was responsible. I suddenly looked at Wang Manian. Manian, you tell us, was Ruyan alive or dead? You are a doctor. You also have a family. Think carefully before you answer. You may not remember. But I still remember. When the cremation button was pressed, you and Mom were the ones who rushed over and pressed it. If Ruyan was really alive, then aren't you and Mom the ones responsible? I described their attempt to stop it as deliberately pressing the button. Before Du Zillman could shout nonsense, Wang Manian gritted her teeth and said, Sister Ruyan was truly gone. I breathed a sigh of relief, but Jai Boda raised his phone. I knew you would lie. So I brought evidence. Jai Boda played a video on his phone. In the video, Liu Ruyan, Wang Manian, Du Zillman, and Jai Boda were sitting on a sofa discussing the fake death plan. Liu Ruyan's voice came from the phone. Just as disgusting as in my last life. When the time comes, I'll take an anesthetic. You find a way to knock my husband out. Then tell him I've already been cremated. After it's done, I'll give you 1 million. But the surveillance clip was incomplete. It did not include the part where the four of them discussed dumping the debt on me. Wang Manian crouched down, not knowing how to defend herself at all. I really didn't know. Jai Boda seemed to relax. I really didn't lie to you. He really caused Ruyan's death. So he should go to prison. And all this inheritance should belong to Auntie. I acted frightened and said nothing. After building up my emotions for a while, I looked devastated, unlike someone pretending. Officer, I want to report a crime. The three of them deliberately made my wife fake her death, but did not tell me. I was so heartbroken at the time that I didn't notice anything unusual about my wife. The two of them clearly knew I planned to donate my wife's organs and cremate my wife. Yet they deliberately didn't tell me she was alive. They did it on purpose. They intentionally wanted me to cremate my wife, then bring people here to seize the property. I thought my wife had passed. I followed the normal process and cremated her. Was that wrong too? Obviously it was not. They had not expected me to speak so clearly. They thought once I learned the truth, I would collapse and let them lead me by the nose, but I had already died once. I was no longer the simple, foolish man from my last life. The moment I woke up, I had already planned every step I would take next. My throat was hoarse from grief. I wanted to donate organs for Ruyan. Mom, you were there too. When you refused the donation, why didn't you tell me the truth? If it was just a divorce, how could I possibly refuse? It was clearly you. You deliberately deceived Ruyan. You made Ruyan believe your lies and choose to fake her death, making me the person who sent my own wife to the cremation furnace. How could you be so cruel? That was because Ruyan said. You had to believe it. So I could only stop you from donating organs. I didn't dare tell the truth. Then what about this? On my way to the crematorium, you called me, which means you knew I was taking Ruyan to be cremated. I was too heartbroken to answer. Then why didn't you send a text? And after you arrived at the crematorium, Ruyan clearly had not yet been cremated. Why didn't you tell the truth? Instead, in front of everyone, you deliberately pressed the cremation button. Du Xiaoman and Wang Manian were speechless, but I knew why. They confidently believed there was still time. As long as they could get me away at the crematorium for a while, the plan would succeed. After all, fortune favors the bold. In the end, there was no conclusion to this mess. Each side had its own story. The police had no choice but to take all of us back to the station and temporarily detain us, pending investigation. But after investigating for several days, they found that I really was an extremely simple husband. I knew nothing about Lidu Ruyan's affair. I never asked about Lidu Ruyan's business trips or social events. I never checked her phone. They also visited my neighbors, friends, and coworkers, and checked the home's surveillance from when Lidu Ruyan was alive. They confirmed that we were a loving couple. We had never even had an argument, and the police could not possibly know I had been reborn. Based only on the current evidence, how could a husband like me suddenly cause his own wife's death for no reason? As for Du Xiaoman, Wang Manian, and Jai Boda, their statements were full of holes. They clearly had countless chances to tell me that Liu Ruyan was not really gone, yet they insisted on waiting until after I had cremated her. Especially Wang Manian and Du Xiaoman. They clearly saw Liu Ruyan enter the furnace, but still refused to tell the truth. They even pressed the button themselves. Although they claimed it was an accident, who would believe that? Not only that, the fake death plan from the beginning was already shocking enough. So the investigation concluded that I was just an innocent, pitiful man who had lost his wife. The other three were detained on suspicion of causing her death. After they were released on bail, Du Xiaoman and Jai Boda refused to accept it. Every few days they found people to block me. At first, I contacted property management. Later, I called the police, but they clung to me like sticky plaster, refusing to leave me alone. In the end, I had no choice. I used Liu Ruyan's inheritance to hire 100 bodyguards. I also ordered them that if anyone caused trouble again, except for those two familiar faces, everyone else should be taught a hard lesson. At worst, I would pay compensation, and just like that, it ended. Du Xiaoman and Jai Boda were fine, but the others they encouraged to come make trouble suffered an entire month's performance target. After that, no matter how Du Xiaoman and the other one tried to incite people, no one was willing to follow them anymore. The two raged helplessly, and could only hope to end me with their glares. I gladly watched them make fools of themselves. Right in front of them, I enjoyed life. Champagne, fine wine, sports cars, beautiful women. I made up for every regret from my last life. Du Xiaoman and Jai Boda were furious enough to grind their teeth. 3 months later, the case was finally sentenced. The three were convicted of serious charges and sentenced to life imprisonment. When the officers came to the door with the documents, Du Xiaoman immediately put on a scene, climbing onto the balcony and threatening to jump. She said I harmed my own wife, and I was worse than a beast, and that I would pay for it after death. She accused the officers of ignoring the law and human life. More and more people gathered downstairs to watch. Du Xiaoman seemed to see hope. She tried to stir up everyone's emotions and make them speak for her. She spoke with deep emotion, crying as she shouted. Until an hour later, someone quietly said, "Are you jumping or not? Is this a show? You're wasting my time." Du Xiaoman jumped up in anger, but her foot slipped. She fell straight down. With a thud, she was gone on the spot. Wang Meiyan didn't have an easy time either. After the incident spread, her husband immediately divorced her. He not only took the child away, but also told the child to cut ties with Wang Manian and never acknowledge her as his mother again. Before the police came to arrest her, Wang Manian came to beg me more than once. She hoped that, for the sake of our old friendship, I would write a letter of forgiveness for her. She said as long as I was willing to forgive her, she would do anything. She didn't want her family to fall apart. But when my family fell apart in my last life, whoever pitied me? After all, the consequences were caused by her own actions, so she had to bear them herself. The last time she even tried to seduce me, I sneered and had 100 bodyguards throw her out. Later, I heard Wang Manian had attempted self-harm in prison several times, but none of those attempts succeeded. As for Jai Boda, he was even more ridiculous. He actually tried to play the family card with me, saying the child was innocent. Saying that since I loved Liu Ruyan so much, how could I bear to let her own flesh and blood lose both parents and become an orphan? He also said the child had been smart since young and could help me manage the company in the future. As for himself, he said he was not greedy. As the child's biological father, I only needed to give him a few million for retirement, and he promised never to appear before us again. So I smiled and told him I had already contacted an orphanage. The child would not suffer. As for you, Ruyan must be lonely down there. You should keep her company. While Jai Boda cursed in rage, I smiled and walked out of the police station. I completely cut ties with everything from the past. After everything ended, I dismissed the 100 bodyguards and gave them generous severance pay. Among them, there was one female bodyguard. Not only was she diligent and responsible during the job, her personality also suited me well. She was beautiful, and I saw loyalty in her. So I sold my original house and used the inheritance Liu Ruyan left me to buy a bigger home in a better location. Then I moved in alone with that female bodyguard. As for Liu Ruyan's ashes, I kept them with me the whole time, because I believe heaven has eyes. I wanted her to watch from above and see just how happy my life had become. Mr. Lin, what should we do next? The female bodyguard had a stunning figure and sharp eyes, yet now she looked a little shy. She stood behind me, nervously rubbing her hands. I smiled. Of course, we'll answer the country's call and try for 3 kids at once.